How many of you felt resistance from your family to come here this weekend? How many of you were encouraged by your family? Okay. How many of you have children who are under the age of 5? Any children under the age of 5? Okay. You have children between 5 and 10? 10 to 15? 15 to 20? Okay. How many of you have come here with a relative? Okay. How many of you have never been to our Chinmaya Mission Northwest Indiana Center before? This is your first time. How many of you have never been to a Chinmaya Mission program before? Okay. Okay. Very fresh group. That's good. We'll use the same content as last time. So we'll begin. सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुदेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। There have been numerous studies that if what a devi, what a woman does at home and outside of the home could be quantified and paid for, each woman, each devi would be in the $100,000 range. Whether it's being a driver, a cleaner, a counselor, a gardener, a guardian, security. Think of how many responsibilities you have. What's humorous? You need a license and training that backs up that license to drive a car. But to have a child requires no training and no license. When having a child is the most comprehensive sadhana, isn't it? It's physical, financial, social, metaphysical, emotional, in every direction. These responsibilities, in whatever direction, are training. They are to make us better, stronger, smarter. For anyone who does any form of training, athletically, dance, professionally, isn't it to make you better? And the more training you go through, the better you become. There are many people who study Bharatanatyam casually, once a month. They'll interact with the teacher. Their training is little, so their performance is little. But someone who trains every day, someone who trains twice a day, their training is more rigorous, and so their performance is more rigorous as well. It's more beautiful. Our responsibilities can be translated into training. Now the question is, why should we train? Someone trains their lungs to run faster. Someone trains their communication skills to sell more. What is our training for? Why do we have to do all of this work? Why do we have to endure all of these responsibilities? This training is so we can tune in to what we need. So what is it that we need? I facilitate classes in London, Ontario, where our babies from London have come here. And once I'd asked the whole assembly, adults and children, why do you come here? And one boy put his hand up, to learn how to make money. And I said, you stay here longer than everyone else, if that's why you come here. And I asked him why. He said, so I can buy things. Why buy things? And he kept on going on and on and on until one of the teachers hit him and said, say happiness. And then I stopped. So I'm just going to pause here. Do you hear feedback, or is that only me that's hearing feedback? Like when I speak like this?
It's clear.
It's fine?
Yeah.
We all need happiness. Now many people present it as a want, but you can change your wants. I can switch from a Google phone to an Apple phone. That want can change. Can you change your pursuit for happiness? You can't. We are physically, metaphysically wired to move towards happiness. That cannot change. Now, a Devi, in her dedication to all of her responsibilities, a spouse, parents, children, neighbors, work, whatever it is, she often loses that happiness. In creating that happiness for all of the people around her, she often loses that happiness in whatever way as well. Is it okay for you that you need happiness, but you give it up? Is that okay? You know, on a plane, when they have that safety talk in the beginning, they say if there's less oxygen and the masks fall, whose mask do you put on first? Yours. Then you put on the person next to you if they need help. Your own. I feel that our Devis have come to feel it's okay to be unhappy with whatever responsibilities, because this is just what I'm supposed to do. If you remember a few years ago, I spoke at the cardiology symposium at Community Hospital. And I had asked all of the patients, all of the physicians, some of you were there, how many of you have experienced some sort of stress this past week? And almost 90% of the 400 people that were there had their hands up. When they put their hands up, what did they do after that? Looked around. Oh, she has stress too. Oh, that person has stress too. We're all on the same team, like congratulating ourselves that we have stress in our lives. See, I feel it's okay to be unhappy, and you feel it's okay to be unhappy, and then we just radiate that out. Is this okay? Research. Whenever you use a new product, the cars that you drove in, there is a manual in your glove compartment which nobody ever looks at, but it's there. And whenever we do check, that is when that weird symbol comes on our dashboard and we don't understand what it means. And even after we read the manual, we still don't understand what it means. So we pay someone to interpret that for us. It means you have low tire pressure. I'm just telling you what that symbol is. So you look in that manual. Okay, this is how much pressure I should have in my tires. But I don't know how to do it, so I get it again, someone else to do it. What about living? I don't know how to use my car, so I look at a manual. I don't know how to use my computer, so I look at a manual. What about living? Our Creator, Bhagavan, has also provided a manual on how to live. On reaching happiness, on treating responsibilities as training. If we can follow this manual, then we don't even have to pursue happiness, we will provide happiness. If we follow this manual. This manual is beyond time, this manual is beyond space. It is eternal, it is universal. And we are going to take a small section of one manual. We are fortunate that we have endless manuals in the form of Ramayana, Upanishads, Bhagavatam. And not in small scales. Mahabharata is 100,000 verses. Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. The Vedas, 100,000 verses. We are going to take Srimad Bhagavad Gita's chapter 6. Now, whenever you hear this chapter, what do you think of? Meditation. Dhyana Yoga. What in the world does this have to do with being a deity? But isn't it in this chapter that one finds actual happiness? Not outside, but inside. So this is most pertinent, most relevant to our days. And we are just going to study the beginning, and we're going to take this and put it in the framework of you. This is an analysis of you. And without getting into more of an introduction, I'll share that shortly. You all have chapter 6 with you. It came in your welcome package. If you go to page 4, I believe it's on page 4 as the first shloka. Please chant after me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Anashrita karma phalam.
Anashrita karma phalam.
Karyam karma karoti yaha.
Karyam karma karoti yaha.
Sasanyasi cha yogi cha.
Sasanyasi cha yogi cha.
Naniragnir chakriyaha.
Naniragnir chakriyaha.
Now these shlokas are very simple, and I know you know the meaning of these. So we're going to go word by word, simply. What does anashritaha mean? Without looking at your books, I know you can read. In your experience with Vedanta, anashrita means not dependent. Karma phalam, fruits of action. So right away, first message, don't depend on fruits of action. Second, karyam, work that you need to do. Karma, actual work. Karoti, do it. Yaha, who's yaha? You. Do the work you're supposed to do. Third line, it says saha, which means he, but we should change that to sa, she. She is a sannyasi and a yogi. And the last line says, na niragni. What does agni mean? Fire. Not someone who doesn't engage in fire or kriya, action. Okay, so that's just the simple English words, but we'll put this all together. I want you to visualize being in Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is in northern India. And you have millions of people on this huge field. Nobody here knows what a million is. Think, what was the biggest group of people that you've seen? Even Mumbai train stations, they transport 7 million, but over a period of a day. At one point you see many thousands, but not a million. I was in a venue of 500,000 people. I went to a concert with 500,000 people. It took me 1 hour to walk to the bathroom and 1 hour back. Just to give you a reference point of how many people that is. I had my friend put me on his shoulders and I turned around and I couldn't see farther than people. It was a very humbling circumstance. So you have millions on both sides. Prince Arjuna, you, tells Lord Krishna, put my chariot between both armies. I want to see who I'm fighting against. I want to see who I'm fighting with. And Lord Krishna very thoughtfully puts him in front of Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya, the people that Prince Arjuna is most fond of. And when he faces this challenge, instead of being courageous and standing towards this challenge, he loses confidence and starts to crumble. Now, who's Bhishmacharya, who's Dronacharya for you? Our responsibilities. Whatever our responsibilities are. Maybe it's firing someone at the workplace. Maybe it's telling a friend that you're doing the wrong thing. Maybe it's telling a child that you need to grow up. Whatever the responsibility would be. And Arjuna can't face that responsibility, so what does he do? He shrinks. So we fast forward to chapter 2. Lord Krishna doesn't make Prince Arjuna more capable. He's not having a capability crisis. He's having an identity crisis. Just like you and I. We have forgotten that we're babies. And where there's an identity crisis, there will be a responsibility crisis. I'll give you an example. If someone is pregnant but they don't know they're pregnant, there's an identity crisis, isn't there? Then their lifestyle, suppose what they eat and drink, doesn't. And I want you to act selflessly, but let go of deservership. That's the first message from Lord Krishna in this chapter. Whatever you do, do it because it's the right thing to do. If it's the right thing to do and you're waiting to get something in return, the right thing has become the wrong thing. If it's the right thing to do it, period. But we're always putting these conditions, these expectations on, so the right thing becomes the wrong thing. And even when we get it, we still feel agitated. We still feel uneasy. So the first message is, let go of deservership. Then the second quarter says, fine, let go of the deservership. What should I do? Engage in your responsibilities. It is a privilege to engage in a responsibility. This is training. We all look forward to being sent away for some sort of training. In your workplaces, you want to go to China. You want to go to Hawaii, ideally, right? For work. I'm going to choose that continued professional development in Hawaii. We look forward to that. Just by engaging in our responsibilities, that brings what we're supposed to receive. And I'm going to put this in a different context. Suppose you're studying for an exam, and you have studied lots, and then they cancel the exam, which would be great, but you studied so hard, and you think, why did you cancel the exam? Haven't you got what the purpose of that exam was? You studied. Period. In one of our teachers' training, I'd asked everyone to come up for a lesson on the law of karma. And they were very excited about it. They had all of these ideas. And when it came to the presentation, I said, okay, let's just continue. And they're like, no, but we have our presentations. I know, let's just continue. They didn't like it, but they got it in the end. Karyam karma karotiyaha. We have to act because it's the right thing to do and not focus on what we get out of this. This is sannyasa. This is yoga. Whenever we think of sannyasa, don't we think of something we can't be? First thing that you think of when you think of sannyasi is, I'm married. How can I be a sannyasi? First thing we think of when we think of yoga is, did you bring your handkerchief today? Yoga is not an exercise. Yoga is a philosophy. Yoga is a vision. In other words, This is your puja. Whenever you think of puja, you think of what happens here. You think of your puja room. But practicing yoga is your puja. Practicing sannyasa is your puja. See how just a change of perspective. I complain, I don't have enough time for puja. Actually, Bhagavan has given us the whole day to do puja. Just to change in perspective. Hasn't Puja Gurudev said, work is worship? And we will get to that shortly. Yoga is developing virtues. Sannyasa is being virtuous. You practice virtues, once you're established in them, you are virtuous. What is one virtue we can practice? Letting go of expectations. Then, if we do that, we become virtuous, we let go of ego. Who's the one that forces those expectations? Ego. When are you the least egotistical? Around infants. You ever say, you know what kind of mother I am? You say that to the 1-year-old. Right? You don't have any expectations there because there's no ego there. As soon as the child goes from 1 to 4, now they're in pre-K, and you get a phone call. Your toddler is, biting everyone. Then all of a sudden you walk in with a red face. You hold them by the arm like this. They're 4 years old. What do they even know who the other person is? But now my ego's coming in. So are my expectations. You remember the day you were married? No ego, no expectations. Remember the next day after you were married? But we all were in that position before. So yoga is developing virtues. Sannyasa is being established in virtues. Is there anyone in this room that cannot practice virtues? Is there anyone in this room that is not entitled to be established in virtues? This first shloka is a reality check for us. It's to change our perspective that we can be much more than what we limit ourselves to be. In many cases I meet babies like yourself and I ask them, do you work in the house, outside of the house? One lady corrected me. She said, I work inside and outside of the house. I thought I was vigilant with my remarks, but she corrected me. We all make mistakes like that. I've been in circumstances where someone has asked someone else, are you pregnant? And I was like, oh, don't say that. Don't say that. Infer it, etc., but never make that comment. It can be very offensive to someone if they're not pregnant, right? So do you work inside of the house and or outside of the house is going to be my statement now. And the people who only work in the house, they say, I'm just a housewife. See, you say that. That's why you're saying it. Or here's your other strategy. I'm a husband. What mumbles it? Like I'm not going to hear it. You limited yourself. Why the just? Why not say you're a housewife? Someone doesn't say I'm just a lawyer. I'm just an athlete. I'm just a whatever. Why just a housewife? Why mumble? Drop the thought of why do I have to engage in these responsibilities? That's the problem, isn't it? As soon as you put the why do I have to do that, that responsibility becomes much, much, much heavier. If you remove the why, it's just a responsibility. We never ask why with infants. Why do I have to wake up for an infant? At least when we're not so tired, we say, we don't make such remarks. But as soon as you put an option there, why, then the mind is going to choose otherwise. Tomorrow you have an option to come to guided meditation at 6:30, bonus or not. Who's going to be there? Don't put your hand up, you're not coming, I know. If it's optional, why would I come? This is the baby retreat. Here food is provided for us. A room is provided for us. The mind is extrovert. It will definitely take being sick, being tired. Drop that thought of why these responsibilities. These responsibilities I have to do. Karyam karma karotiya. I have to do this because it teaches me to let go of deservership. That's being a yogi, that's being a sannyasi. Right there, one shloka sets our perspective. Bhagwan has made the Devi capable of her responsibilities. Capable. I read many places that the pain threshold of a Devi is much, much, much more than a Deva. So physically, a Devi is created to just experience more pain. Devas walk around being really tough, but we know who's, who's stronger. So physically, one is created like that. Mentally as well, though I don't advocate multitasking, and I'm going to speak on that, but I feel Devis can multitask much more than a Deva can. When I'm driving, I literally say, Sheila, okay, let's practice Mona now while we drive. Or when I'm doing something, she's speaking to me, but I just give her one of these dirty looks, like I'm doing my work right now. But whenever she's doing something, I'm always talking to her. You know, what about this? Did you think about this? Are you listening to me right now? I'm shaking. Are you listening to me right now? No reaction. Because she can just embrace more tasks at one mentally. This thought of why? Why? Because Bhagwan made me like this. Why? Because Bhagwan believes I can do it. Does Derrick Rose still play for the Chicago Bulls? In his prime, and I know you're offended by the fact that I said in his prime, which means he's not in his prime. Reality check, I told you, first shloka. In his prime, he got the basketball the most. Why? He's the best player. He's capable of dribbling. He's capable of shooting. Does he get the ball and say, why me, and throws it back? I'm created to do this work. All Devis must remember that. Work is an opportunity to do puja. In my puja, I develop virtues. When I do my puja completely, I become virtuous. In other words, I am happy. Isn't that what we need? Happiness. Now, to complete this thought, when I was growing up, I would go to Vedantic discourses, and I would be inspired in the moment, but as soon as the discourse was over, I never knew what to do with what I just experienced. It's like going to a dessert store and you see all of these desserts, and you want to eat them, but it closes on you. Frustrating, isn't it? So I thought about this a lot, and the way that I want to learn Advaita Vedanta is through a tiered system. That I want to know what the highest message is. I want to know where I should grow to, but I want to know what I can do right now. So for each of these shlokas, I'm going to try to give you this tier in the form of art. It's the art of self-development. Absolute, relative, tactile. Tactile means something you can touch, something you can walk away with, something you can do tonight. So what is the absolute message of this shloka? Renounce the ego. Now some may be thinking, but I don't have an ego. Reality check. I was in one forum where I had asked everyone, please put your hand up if you've never failed before. And one man put his hand up. I said, there's your first. The fact that you think you've never failed, that's your failure. When the Purna Kumbha was offered today, you notice that there's a coconut there. So now, if someone was asked, a friend of yours comes from a neighborhood here and says, how come you all use this coconut in your traditions, in your ceremonies? What will everyone say? To make chutney. Right? We need coconut for our rice, we need coconut for our food. I think that coconut's already been used, right? They've already taken the important parts and put it back. The coconut actually represents our ego. See all the hairs around it? All the hairs on the bottom is the tamasic thoughts. Those are the lazy thoughts. The hairs all around it are the rajasic thoughts. Those are the aggressive thoughts. And the hairs on top are the sattvic thoughts. Those are the calm thoughts. When all that hair is there, you can't see or get to the shell. So what to do? Clean up the shell. So we have to discard the tamasic thoughts and the rajasic thoughts by holding on to the sattvic thoughts. So you hold on top and start discarding. It's not you put it in your pocket to put it back. You burn that. And when that shell is completely bare, that's the ego. And every one of us has an ego. All that differs is the density. Some have very thick egos, some have very thin egos. Then what do we do with that bare coconut? We go to an altar. We go to the ashram, we go to the mandir, and we break it. And what's inside of that coconut? That pure flesh, or that pure water. That's our potential. So renounce the ego. How? Be virtuous. That's absolute. At a relative level, renounce expectations. If I do this, then I can get to that. So I have to renounce expectations. Who do we have expectations of the most? No, you have the least expectations of yourself. The people around us. The people we are to love the most are the people we have the most expectations of, which makes us, or should make us think, do we love them? I'm saying this politely, okay? Don't act on what I'm saying in this moment. No, I don't love you. Vivekji told me I don't love you anymore. You love yourself the most. You do anything for yourself. And you have the least expectations of yourself. So love and expectations, they don't go together. It's a confused relationship, but the people I love, I expect the most of them. Renounce those expectations. And if I can do that, that is acceptance. Love and acceptance are synonyms. I accept myself because I love myself. But if I have these expectations, I want you to be something different. Is that really fair? Renounce expectations. Relative. At a tactile level, this is what you must begin tonight. When someone says, "What do you do?" speak with pride. If you're a housewife, say, "I'm a housewife." And if someone snickers at that, then you go on to say, "I drive, I'm a security guard, I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist, I'm an analyst, I'm an accountant, I'm an attorney." You know, when kids fight and you have this debate that's going on. But with pride. If you're a physician, with pride. If you teach voice training, with pride. If you don't value it, why would anyone else value it? Who hurts Sanatana Dharma the most? Hindus. We keep saying, that person's racist, that person's whatever, that person's whatever. We hurt Sanatana Dharma the most. Who insults India the most? And we think it's okay, we're Indians, we can talk like this. And if you do it jokingly, fine, but are you joking about it? That's why Gurudev said, awakening Hindus to Hinduism, awakening Indians to India. Speak with pride. If you speak with pride, you will think along the same lines, you will act along the same lines. Someone today was saying, you fake it till you make it, right? Take that message, but infuse it with sattva. I'm not saying fake it. Actually speak with pride. Guruji has shared, do what you value and value what you do. Isn't what you're doing valuable? Being a grandmother, isn't that valuable? Being a girlfriend, isn't that valuable? Being a woman with no reference point, isn't that valuable? Whatever you do is valuable. Why is it just because one is a different gender that becomes less valuable? Sometimes I think Devis bring Devis down the most. Devis gossip more about Devis than Devas gossip about Devis. Isn't it? You're all thinking, yeah, we're very good at it. So stop doing that. Speak with pride. What was the absolute message? Renounce ego. How are you going to get there? Renounce expectations. How are you going to get there? Now you may be thinking, how does speak with pride lead to renounce expectations? When you're happy, you don't have expectations. The less happy you are, the more expectations. I expect you to complete me, but if I'm happy, I don't need anything from you. As long as we have something to gain, we have something to lose. If you have nothing to gain, nothing to lose. So focus on value. Okay. We move to Shloka 2. Yam sanyasamiti prahu
Yam sanyasamiti prahu
yogam tam vidhi pandava
Yogam tam vidhi pandava
nahya sanyasyatam kalpaha Yasa sankalpaha yogi bhavati kaschana.
Yogi bhavati kaschana.
Yam means which. Sannyasam. What does sannyasam mean? Renunciation. Iti, thus. Prahuhu, share. Why I'm trying to translate these English words is just to break that, oh, I can't study this. You can study this. Next word, yoga. Do not want to grow, they can never get to renouncing the ego. And the problem here is, if I don't grow, I don't believe you can grow either. Isn't it that we've all made mistakes in our lives? We've treated someone poorly, but we feel bad. We've grown out of that. And when we interact with that person again, they're still believing that we're that same old person. You'll never change. If someone says that, that really means that they never changed. Because if someone's changed before, they'll believe that that person can change too. It is very egotistical to think, I can change, but you can't. So we have to renounce who we are today so we can be someone better tomorrow. Snakes do that with their skin. Eagles do that with their feathers. We must do the same with who we are today. If I believe my potential is this much today, tomorrow I should believe my potential is more. And if we start to practice acceptance of ourselves, we'll be doing a great service to others to help them practice acceptance of themselves. A place where I see very little acceptance is the gym. Often when people go to the gym, those gyms are just covered in mirrors. Why? The people who know how to work out don't need those mirrors. And the people who don't know how to work out, they're the ones who are looking in the mirror all the time. Look how strong I am now. Look how good I'm looking, and so on and so forth. But the problem is, the more conscious I become of my body, the more conscious I become of your body. It's a dangerous place to be in that regard. The less accepting I am of me, the less accepting I am of you. The more I accept that this is who I am today, but I can renounce who I am to be someone better, the more I believe in others. The more faith I have in others. But it starts with ourselves. Here, Lord Krishna is saying, someone can be a sannyasi if they practice yoga. They can practice yoga if they renounce sankalpa. Now, whenever we think of sankalpa, we think of puja, right? This is why I'm doing my puja. And though we say, Shri Parameshwara Prityartham, I'm doing this to please the Lord. Really, why are we doing that puja? So we win the lottery. So I get the job and the person next to me doesn't get it. Even if I don't get it, as long as they don't get it. We do these pujas for very interesting reasons. Imagine Bhagwan, and I don't know why I'm saying imagine. Bhagwan can read our minds, isn't it? But we think, oh, he's not reading my mind in this portion. or I'm tricking you. This is a very scary exercise for you to do, but I'll tell you anyways. Visualize people can read your mind. We would be so quiet all the time. So careful of what's going on. So a gentleman had once asked me, Vivekji, can you bring people back from death? And I explained to him about medical death, biological death, philosophical death. And then he asked me, can you read people's minds? And I leaned forward close to him and said, yes. And I did it to scare him. That's like the sattvic joy. We get scaring people in little ways like that. But honestly, what I explained to him was, the little bit I know of my mind, if I know 0.01% of my mind, is the 0.01% I know of your mind. Because we're not different. Sankalpa. Sam means good. Kalpaha means change. Okay? So when we take a sankalpa, and one of our speakers said the divine sankalpa, that's what we do here. So as Bhagavan Krishna is saying, give up those divine sankalpas. He's saying the sankalpa we have of always trying to become something. In fact, in Vedanta it's called Bhava Roga. Bhava means to become, Roga means disease. I want to become this, I want to become this, I want to become this. And when we want to become something, who are we actually using as a reference point? Someone else. I want to look like her. I want a job like her. I want a husband like him. I want a brother like that. I wish I raised my children like this. I wish I lived in this city. I wish I had a different center. Don't say anything. Pittsburgh, don't say anything there. This idea, we always want to become something. And if I'm becoming, what am I missing out on? Being. This is what this whole chapter is teaching us, how to be. Everyone's becoming. 2 days ago was John Lennon's birthday. And there was a famous incident in his life. His mother, wise woman, taught him when he grows up to be happy. So that year in his class, he had an assignment that said, he's 5 years old. What do you want to be when you grow up? And so he wrote down, happy. And when he gave that assignment to the teacher called him and said, I don't think you understood the assignment. And he looked at her and said, I don't think you understood life. Awesome. At 5 years old, he was already awesome. Being is happiness. Becoming is trying to be happy. I'll put it in one more reference point. Isn't it that we all want to be happy forever? And what do we compromise in that? Being happy today. So I want to be happy forever, but it prevents me from being happy today. But if you're happy every day, doesn't that mean you'll be happy forever? It's games that we play with ourselves, and we validate these games as being right. Humans are experts when it comes to validating themselves. And I'm going to give you 2 personal experiences about this. Sheila, myself, my cousin, my sister, and a good friend of mine, we all went out for dinner in Niagara Falls at an Italian restaurant. And my cousin, when the waitress came, asked if there was meat in this soup, if there was chicken in this soup. And she said, he asked if there's meat. She said it's based on a chicken broth. And he said, bring it. So she left, and Sheila asked my cousin, aren't you a vegetarian? What was his response? But you can't see the chicken. So confidently, but you can't see it, so it's vegetarian, right? I can't see UV rays. They just don't exist. There's one reference point. Here's another one. So Vilasniji and myself and Swami Pirananda, we actually organized the first Devika retreat in August. So you're all Devis, but at one point you were Devikas. Translated as little goddesses. You're all big goddesses, big potential. They're all little goddesses. And as we were sharing thoughts on the Devika, we had 3 reference points. It's Devika and society, Devika and religion, Devika and herself. We were sharing thoughts on this. Many people in that vicinity were very new to Chinmaya Mission. Many had never met us before either. So I was watching, because I get to see everyone. I was watching, everyone began with laughs. And instead of learning, it went in the opposite direction. Those laughs turned to this, then this, then this, and slowly the arms went up like this. Some tears started coming out, some people left. So in the next discourse, I had to present it as, I'm here to tell you what the scriptures, or what I believe the scriptures say about the Devika and these points. I'm not here to validate what you believe. I'm not here to give you an endorsement for how you're going about living your life. If it's in line with this, there is your endorsement. If it's not, I'm not here to do that. And so that evening we had a question and reflection period. The next day we did 2. And many Devikas said, we came here to fight. We came here to argue. That they came in with, this is what we know and we're going to show you you don't know. Especially me. I was the only male for 48 hours. See, Swamiji left already. He couldn't take 48 minutes and he's already gone. And that's why the cameraman's not saying anything. That's it. Silently doing his work and he's gone. But they came in seeking validation of what their perspective is, and were brilliant at doing that. Sankalpa here is our misdirected thoughts. Where we're supposed to change, we resist it. Where we're not supposed to change, we try to. Let us cease from resisting change. As one evolves in their dharma, they have to change more. An infant has very little dharma, very little responsibility, so they just don't have to change. When an infant becomes a sister, more responsibilities, more changing. When that sister becomes a wife, this is all me just assuming this pattern of relationships, doesn't one's responsibilities change? So don't I have to change too? Marriage is fascinating in that way. First, we don't want someone to change. Be exactly who you are forever. But then we change, and we want them to. How come you're not changing? How does one absorb that? It's just a mind game, isn't it? First you tell me not to change, then you tell me to change. What do you want? But the sensitive person, as our dharma evolves, we should change accordingly. If someone has children, more responsibilities, more changing them, isn't it? Eating styles, spending styles, traveling styles. Suppose your children are allergic to a certain type of food. Your traveling patterns completely change, isn't it? What time you come home at night, and so on and so forth. See here, Balagara in this center starts at, I think, 4 p.m. In many centers it starts at 9:30, 10. And a lot of the times the kids come late because of their parents. They're ready with their bags at the front door, and if they come late, it's because their parents. Why? What were they doing the night before? Partying. They're not willing to change for their children's well-being. We have to let go of this idea of resisting change. My parents taught this to me before Sheila and I got married. My mother told me, don't marry someone you love. Marry someone who loves you. I thought, great advice. My father said, you're never going to find the perfect person. I keep reminding Sheila, you're never. But see, they're saying the same thing. My mother said, marry someone who will change for you. My father said, you better be ready to change for someone else. Both the same message, but from a different perspective. But if I marry someone who's going to resist change, it will be the worst. Because responsibilities are definitely going to change, but this person's not growing up. We all know people who, with children, are still acting like bachelors. I know a lot of people like that and just can't get through to them. And there's so many repercussions that come with that. And for us to change, we don't control anyone. We barely control ourselves, isn't it? So if someone is not going to change, us not changing is not going to encourage them to change. We should change more than them. There was an article in Spirit magazine. Which airline has Spirit magazine? No travelers here, right? Southwest. Everyone's mumbling. I'll just go like this and hopefully you'll think that I got the right answer. Southwest. And then an article about youth. As youth, people in high school, they tend to drift apart from their parents. What did you learn in school today? Stuff. What did you do? Things. One word answers. Monies. They practice silence with their parents. And that rift grows. So what this magazine was sharing, that the more mature party has to create communication to close that gap. So now the more mature party should be the parent. In some cases it's not, but should be the parent. So the parent has to find a way to relate to that youth. It could be music, it could be dance, it could be athletics, it could be sports, it could be whatever. And from there, then you keep opening the door and so closing that gap. So this idea of resisting change is not going to work with the youth. Do you think that they're going to just miraculously become mature and say, you know, I should start talking to my parents more? They'll see it as uncool, right? The less I talk to my parents, the cooler I am. The less I tell them of what's going on, that shows the more independence I have. Give up sankalpa, that is, give up unconscious thinking. You know when we think unconsciously the most? When we're about to go to sleep. So many of us lie down at night. Even today, we'll lie down at night. Today's different. You may have a stranger in the bed next to you, strange room, strange discourses, strange everything. They gave you a treat. But in your own beds, at night, lights are off, you're by yourself or the person next to you is sleeping. And when you're supposed to sleep, what's happening? Sankalpa. All of the things that happened in the day I didn't get done, all of the things I have to do tomorrow, this person, that person, that person. So my mother and father have joined the Vedanta course. They've moved to Siddhabari. They have been there for 6 months now. They started on April 7th. And I'm overlooking their business and their personal affairs now. So that forced me to sleep half an hour less than what I was doing before, and it's fine. Sheila and I have interesting conversations about how much we should sleep. And I get up significantly earlier and I use my phone as a light in the room. Because Sheila's a very sensitive person when it comes to light and sound. And after 2.5 hours of using a phone light, your eyes hurt. Like, I just want to wake her up. Just wake up so I can use the light and make noise. And so when she wakes up, I was like, you know, you've been in bed for a long time. We both went to sleep at the same time, but I got up 3 hours or 2 hours earlier. But she shares that I didn't sleep right away. And I don't really know, maybe I'm fortunate that when I lie down, I go to sleep. It makes her mad. But I don't really know what that means, is to lie down and think about what happened today or what's going to happen tomorrow. But I know that everyone is going through that. So you can lie down, but how much did you sleep? That sankalpa is preventing us from sleeping. It's deteriorating our health, our money, etc., etc. Renounce that. How? Change in the right way. By changing in the right way, conscious thinking, then these unnecessary thoughts will not be there. If you've eaten a full meal and they walk around with that gulab jamun, are you going to take it? Yeah, okay, fine. One. Are you going to take the second one? If you didn't eat a full meal, definitely. If you ate a full meal, you may have one, you may just say, no, I have a full meal. When we let go of this unconscious thinking, we will be happy. The quieter the mind, the more the thoughts of the self rise to the surface. Simply let go of that sankalpa, and we will create happiness. And when we're happy, we will follow through with what we have to do. Going back to responsibilities. We don't follow through with our responsibilities at times because we're unhappy. Go to a university during exam periods and watch people's wait. During exams, what are people doing? Eating chocolate, eating popcorn, going for coffee after coffee after coffee. Why? Because they're unhappy. They're trying to escape from their responsibilities. So what to do? I have this unconscious thinking, if I have a coffee, then I'll just be more hyper, not calmer. And it makes us feel worse. When you eat junk food, it makes you feel worse, not better. But the person who is content, that person will follow through with their responsibility. Thought will go out. It can't stay there. Moving back thought will come in. Moving thought will go out. Who said we should own that thought? And if you own it, you have to act on it. If you don't own it, you don't have to act on it. I cannot emphasize enough for those who are practicing this sadhana, just watch. Some of us are afraid that our circulation is cut off. They're going to have to amputate my leg. That's not possible. There's no circulation cut off. It's just a nerve that's being restricted. No one here is so heavy where their leg will just be, there's no blood there. That's not going to happen. It's just a thought. Tough, isn't it? Especially when it comes to arguments. When there's an argument at home or work, and though you're here, what are you thinking about? That argument. So at a relative level, what to do? Whenever these sankalpas are coming, these distracted, unconscious thoughts, chant Bhagwan's name. In cold places, such as Munster, there's often, and I say that because it's very relative, you know. I was recently in Atlanta and they're like, oh, it's so cold here. And I didn't even respond. I was like, what? What are you talking about? What cold? So cold is a very relative expression. So is quantity. Today, I went to someone's house and they said, do you want any food? Sheila and I had gone. And I said, no, we won't have any food, but we'll have a glass of water. That way you're done your obligation, we're done our obligation. But slowly that water turned into a laddu. You know, have a laddu each. And I said, no, we'll have half of a laddu and we'll each share one. So when she's breaking it off, she broke off one small piece and said, there's half. Her half was very misproportionate, very subjective. So, whenever these thoughts are there, these misdirected thoughts should be directed just like when we're driving on black ice. What happens is the driving teachers don't say, turn the wheel like this and go out of control. They say, be calm and actually turn in the direction in which your car is going. That way you can regain control. So if my thought is going here, start chanting Bhagwan's name and take it, meaning control the thought, and bring it where it should go. Chant Bhagwan's name. So there's a beautiful story related to this, which some of you may have heard. A miserable man. I always start with miserable woman. Some of these stories are really funny. If I say there's a sadhu in this story, where will that sadhu be? Sitting under a tree, right? Always sitting under a tree. If there's a man, miserable, right? We have these standard places where they go. So this miserable man is walking, and he finds out that a sadhu who had recently moved into that area has the parasmani. Parasmani is a philosopher's stone. Anything this parasmani touches turns into gold. And in his miserableness, he thought, only if I had that stone, then I'll be like that sadhu. So he developed this sankalpa that I should go ask that sadhu for that stone. If he's really a sadhu, he'll be willing to give it up. So he goes to the sadhu and explains his poor circumstances and says, you're a sadhu, you're happy, please give me that parasmani. And that sadhu says, sure, you can have it. Give it. Oh, I threw it in the bush over there. If you find it, you can take it. The man was so happy. He goes to the bush, he's pushing the bushes across and the leaves and the soil, and he finds that parasmani. So happy. And he leaves. And as he's looking at this stone, a doubt comes into his mind. This stone can turn anything into gold, yet this sadhu, this noble person, threw it away. He has something better. I'm going to ask him for that. So he turns back and he goes to that sadhu and says, you tricked me. You gave me this which is not as worth as much as what you have. I want that. So the sadhu said, no problem, I'll give you that too. Give it. And what is he giving? Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Rama means the one who makes the whole world smile, laugh. He gave Lord Rama's name. Because as you think, if I keep thinking Rama, I can't help but smile. If you keep thinking horror movie, the chances are you'll get scared. Try it. Watch a horror movie and go home. In that place where you've been all the time, it will become scary because it's in here. I think I've told you all the paranormal activity story, Sheila and I, you know. So we went to see a horror movie called Paranormal Activity. Don't watch it. And we came home, and like I said, I went to sleep. Sheila didn't go to sleep. So midway through the night, she's shaking me and saying, are you asleep? Pure logic, are you asleep? I was asleep. How come you're not sleeping? I'm scared. Chant Hanuman Chalisa. And then I went back to sleep. I renounced Sankalpa and went back to sleep. And the next morning I asked her, so how did you sleep? And she said, fine. Until Hanumanji came in her mind, who was in her mind? Me, hurting her. In that horror movie, she visualized I was the one who was going to hurt her. But then Hanumanji came. Strength, courage, etc., etc. How can one not sleep? If Hanumanji is protecting me, I go to sleep. When an infant is in a parent's arms, not even, it doesn't matter. Anything can be around. You know Raja Parikshit? And I'll talk about him tomorrow. When he was bit by Taksha, the most poisonous entity in the universe, he didn't even know. His intellect was so much in that sama, that is samadhi. When he got bit, he was unaware. Amazing, because he was in the lap of God. What was he thinking about other than Bhagavan Krishna? What can Taksha do? So absolute, they're just thoughts. Relative, chant Bhagavan's name. and tactile. Focus on what you are doing. If you focus on what you are doing, these loose or random thoughts will be less, and slowly they'll just go away. There's many studies that are released that share when someone texts and drives, they're 6 times more likely to get into an accident. Today when we were driving, I specifically said that person is texting. I was behind him, and I saw it just swerving back and forth, braking hard, accelerating fast, and when we finally passed that person, looking down and looking up at the same time. 6 times more than if you drink and drive. They should put posters up that say, if you're going to choose one, drink and drive. Drink and drive will be more safe for you and the people around you. That would be an ad campaign that would break your heart, that you should drink and drive instead of text and drive. Lord Krishna has taught in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, you can only have one thought at a time. But like that diya, the diya is actually not solid. I don't think there's a diya that's lit right now, but if there was a diya that's lit, the tip of the flame is moving up and down so quickly, it looks solid. Just like the wheel or the rim of a tire. Our thoughts are the same way. So when someone says multitask, they're lying. It's not possible. The thought is just moving so quickly. It's like I'm multitasking, but it's actually not possible. And that's why in our Vedic tradition, as one of our speakers shared, tomorrow for breakfast, for lunch, what will you be doing? Mauna. In Vedic tradition, when you eat, what do? Eat. In American tradition, when you eat, what do? Everything. Read, write, iPad, shave, comb your hair, negotiate. Do everything while you eat. Which really means we're not enjoying any of those. There's also a Buddhist quote that says, when you walk, walk. When you eat, eat. Focus. Gurudeva said, keep your mind where your hands are. Whenever you and I bathe, this small bathroom, we think of everything in the world but what's happening in that bathroom. We create all of the world's problems, we solve all of the world's problems, we think of generations of our family. Our mind is so strong in that place. But what toothpaste? What toothpaste did you use this morning? Did you feel the foam in your hair? We're just not there. And then we tell our kids we're distracted. Why are they distracted? That's someone who has sankalpa, sankalpa, sankalpa. But the person who is focusing or trying to focus on what they do, you're trying to renounce that sankalpa. Alright. I have to give you, the last Niji gave you an assignment. I also have to give you a RAD. What does RAD stand for? Not an assignment, it's a adventure. It used to be an assignment. It's a reflection adventure of the day. Because when we reflect, the day becomes more meaningful, like an adventure. Here's your reflection adventure of the day. I want you to reflect on your most fearful responsibility. What responsibility do you have in the day or week that you're most hesitant to engage in? You're most afraid, resistant, apprehensive to do. Okay? Reflect deeply on what that responsibility is. We will debrief on this tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Is there anyone here from the city that was not mentioned at the beginning? Miscellaneous is all of Illinois and Indiana. Any other cities? Anyone from DC? Virginia or Maryland other than Glasgow?
Niagara Falls.
Yes, Niagara Falls. International, like I said, this is an international Navy retreat.